So here's the big question. I imagine the word bubble is going to be raised at this conference multiple times if it hasn't already last night. Are we in one? If we are, where are we?
You mean AI or
AI, some kind of economic bubble, market bubble? I don't know what you think it is. And I will say, you mentioned Paul Tudor Jones. He was on our air about a week and a half ago now, and he said he thought we were in some kind of bubble, and he put us on a comparable basis. He thought of October of 1999, which was an interesting moment because the market still had 40% to go.
Right. That's right. Well, first, you rarely have a bubble when the hottest book in New York is about a stock market crash, and everybody who comes on the show talks about a bubble.
There's a bubble in bubbles.
Howard Marks said, it's too early because everybody's talking about a bubble. If you look at multiples as an example, you called out Bernstein yesterday. I thought was great. He was talking about 50 times trailing PE for NVIDIA. It's 25 to 30 times on a forward PE. That's not the stuff that bubbles are generally made of. But certainly the further and further you go out on the risk curve, Andrew, you will find things that make you scratch your head. You say, I wouldn't have done that deal. And there are going to be meme stocks that certainly, have no revenue, Becky, and, in the quantum space or whatever, where you say that valuation doesn't make any sense. But we have this all the time. The bigger question is this. Is the phase shift associated with AI? Is the transformation of all computing with now computer-assisted intelligence, is it as big as the internet? And I would argue that it's as big as the internet. And if you spend all your time hand-wringing, like many people did in 2001 and 2002 about the internet, saying, I told you so, they missed the next 20 years of compounding in Amazon, in Google, and all these big winners.
By the way, I would agree with you in that I think AI is going to change the world. It's a generational shift for all of us. The question is, could there be a hiccup along the way? And what does that hiccup look like in terms of right now, when you say to yourself, the upside in this marketplace today versus the downside? We had an analyst on earlier this morning who said, you know what? It's going to be hard to reach materially higher numbers right now. But she kind of thought, could the market be off 5 or 10%? She said that didn't seem totally unreasonable to her.
We've had two 25% drawdowns in NVIDIA this year.
Right.
Remember the DeepSeek moment? Stock was down 25%. And then on the tariff moment, the stock got down to $92 a share. It's at 180 today. So volatility is the name of the game for two reasons. Number one, we have a president that's trying to reset global trade policy, national industrial policy in the middle of a super cycle. So that's just a lot of uncertainty. So I think that's healthy in a market, right? It's not straight up and to the right. We've had a lot of drawdowns this year. And if you look at these stocks and you say to me, does it make sense that NVIDIA is up 35%, given that their top line has grown way faster than 50%? The answer is yes. It's cheaper today than when the stock was $200 a share.
Okay, so let's talk about the certainty that you think you have about the path forward. So you would say, who are going to be the ultimate winners in all this right now?
Well, I mean, I think on the
NVIDIA, you think, is obviously a winner. Would you touch an AMD? Would you touch a Broadcom?
Sure, we own Broadcom, we've owned AMD. What I would say is if you go back to 2022, and I showed this graphic on the podcast recently, in 2022, right, only 2.5 years ago, Andrew, AMD and NVIDIA had the same revenue. This year, AMD will do just over $30 billion, and NVIDIA will do $225 billion. 100% of the incremental market share to AI basically has gone to NVIDIA. AMD missed the wave. But to Lisa's credit, she raised her hand and said, I'm betting the farm. I'm going to give 10% of my company to OpenAI, and I'm going to bet that the MI450 is going to work and it's going to be competitive with NVIDIA. That's not exactly the position of strength that you want to be coming at it, but it's also a recognition. Lisa said we're in year 2 of a 10-year super cycle to build out the compute in America. If you're not on the AI wave, then you're not going to participate in all that upside.
When you think about the big LLMs, OpenAI at least clearly seems like they're going to be a winner. Google, I don't know where you think Anthropic lands in all of this. I know you own Meta. They're trying to play this game, but playing in an open source way. Does that work?
Yeah, so let's bucket it into consumer and enterprise. I think that's the easiest way. On the consumer side, I've invested in 3 or 4 super cycles now, the internet super cycle, the social, mobile, et cetera. The winner tends to be winner take most, right? So Google had a lot of competitors, 20 competitors in search. They all have pretty good technologies, but Google consumed 98% of all the upside ever associated with search. Meta in the case of social, Apple obviously with the App Store. I think ChatGPT at well over a billion and a half monthly users, over 800 million weekly users, and what most people don't talk about is the engagement. Engagement is going up. So if you look at the cohorts under those numbers, they're extraordinary. And so I think they're breakaway now in consumer. Can Google catch them? I think it's very challenging. Can Meta catch them? I think challenging. Will they build good businesses around AI? Yes. Right? These are money machines, the best businesses in the history of capitalism. They're going nowhere. I'm impressed by what Sundar is doing. I'm also impressed by what Alexander Wang and the team at Meta are doing. But they know how hard it's going to be to catch up in consumer. On the enterprise side, this is going to be a free-for-all. Nobody's going away. Microsoft, Amazon, Google, Meta, they're all, Anthropic is probably one of the market leaders in enterprise today, certainly with Claude Code and the work they're doing with Cursor. So there are going to be a lot of players that are left in the game, but those that we just mentioned, those are going to be in the hunt. Think about the 50 companies that come after them. It's getting harder and harder to raise funding if you're the next foundation model, right? If you're the next application to do coding. I think the market's sorting itself out pretty quickly into the market leaders.
Okay, so when we throw around all those numbers in these deals that we get, even for gigapower, it's $1 trillion per, and then we see what NVIDIA, how many chips. The money doesn't exist yet, and that's a question you keep asking.
That is part of the issue, which is if you, even the biggest companies, OpenAI, doesn't technically have the cash to do this.
But they're promising it.
But they're making the commitments to
We
do
need
it.
Jay Powell? I mean,
So I think there's a lot of hyperventilation about this particular issue. So let's distinguish kind of fact from fiction here. They are laying out a 5 to 10 year framework for what they're going to build.
It begins with a T.
But it takes a long time, Joe. If you deconstruct this by my math, this is like 150 billion of CapEx for OpenAI in 2030. So now we have to forecast the revenue for OpenAI in 2030. Is it plausible or probable that they'll have $150 billion of revenue in 2030? I think it is, right? I think it could be more than that. And so the numbers that you're hearing, again, on trillions is a framework for a decade-long investment cycle, and it only gets spent under two conditions. Number one, the demand shows up, so consumers and enterprises all use it. And number two, the power companies and the chip companies deliver on their promise. Oftentimes, the best ideas are your current ideas, are the last ideas, right? When I look at NVIDIA over the course of the next 3 or 4 years, it's going to continue to compound. Why? Because the things we just talked about, you got to build out this compute. Don't trust, just Sam Altman. If you listen to Satya Nadella, if you listen to Sundar, if you listen to Hock Tan, if you listen to any, they will all tell you the same thing. We are going to be compute constrained for the next several years, for certain, right? You had Greg Brockman on yesterday. Greg said if we had 10x more compute, I don't know if we'd have 10x more revenue at OpenAI, but we'd have a lot more revenue. The fact of the matter is this is an existential, not only an economic security matter, but a national security matter. Right? We have to keep up in the AI race. So this is going to get built out. And so I think you could continue to invest along the compute spectrum.
Help me with money pouring into AI. Let's have a look at NVIDIA to start with. Was this about a $40 billion AI infrastructure deal?
Yeah, that's one of the deals I'm going to tell you about. BlackRock, the world's largest asset manager, and NVIDIA will buy Aligned Datacenters in a deal that is worth $40 billion. The point here is land and compute, spending the money, linking up to operate data centers that power not just artificial intelligence, but quantum computing, which is the next phase of all these technological advances.
Can't wait.
This is the second deal. Do you remember Nscale? When you were in Britain, that's the British data center. They're contracting 200,000 NVIDIA chips to deliver NVIDIA AI infrastructure services for Microsoft. Just for you, Stuart, in Portugal, but also in Texas. And one more piece of NVIDIA news for you. Stock is at 183 now. They were upgraded by HSBC to a buy. I said the stock was at 183. The price target, 320. That's an increase of almost 80%. And the reason is China. HSBC is optimistic that there will be a deal between the US and China, and NVIDIA chips will go there.
I know an awful lot of people who bought NVIDIA on the recommendation of Mike Lee way back.
At like, what, $3 a share?
Yeah, they're going to retire.
Oh, if only we listened to some of our analysts.
That's why the Nasdaq's doing so well. All this AI stuff that's coming out.
All right, I hope you're all doing great today and staying calm in this market. Today, it was announced that a consortium of companies, including BlackRock, Global Infrastructure Partners, Abu Dhabi's MGX, NVIDIA, XAI, and Microsoft are teaming up to purchase Texas-based Aligned Datacenters in a deal worth $40 billion. The consortium plans to expand Aligned Datacenters quickly in the coming years and more than double its 50 data center campuses in the US and Latin America. The goal is for these data centers to be leased to large tech companies, helping boost those companies' valuations by alleviating their need to construct so many new data centers. The chief executive of MGX said, quote, "We very much believe that the requirements for global capacity buildout, both from a cloud and AI perspective, are massive. We're talking about roughly 20 gigawatts a year globally, and about half of that would be in the US. NVIDIA currently gets about $35 billion in revenue for every 1 gigawatt data center. If we're talking about 20 gigawatts coming online annually, that would be roughly $700 billion in revenue going to NVIDIA. And that number could be even higher, assuming NVIDIA will likely charge more for future generation products. That's also assuming that NVIDIA maintains roughly the same market share. As I keep saying, I think NVIDIA has plenty of runway ahead of it. I think most analysts are still underestimating NVIDIA's long-term growth. Speaking of analyst estimates, we got a new street-high price target upgrade today for NVIDIA from HSBC, which raised their NVIDIA price target to $320 per share. I don't put much weight behind analyst price targets, but I mention this so that you're aware of what's happening. And again, I think most analysts are still substantially underestimating NVIDIA's long-term growth. Also today, it's being reported that Nscale will deploy 200,000 NVIDIA GPUs in Europe and the US in an expanded agreement with Microsoft. We also learned today that Meta plans to invest $1.5 billion in a Texas data center that is expected to come online in 2028. The site will be able to scale up to a 1 gigawatt site. Really quick, I want to mention a very interesting piece of news we got today from an NVIDIA blog post. StarCloud, which is a member of the NVIDIA Inception program, is preparing to launch NVIDIA H100s into space this November. Yes, we are now talking about data centers in space. In space, data centers will have access to very low-cost, renewable energy from the sun and unlimited cooling from the vacuum of deep space. This means the data centers will not have to rely on access to water, batteries, or backup power. This is fascinating. We've heard some talk recently about potentially having data centers in space, and StarCloud may be the first to make it happen. This will be very interesting to watch. I continue to be bullish on NVIDIA long-term, and I think this company still has a lot of runway ahead of it. That's why I keep talking about this company. I am serious when I say that I think most analysts are substantially underestimating NVIDIA's long-term growth. While many in the financial press are hyperventilating about bubbles, NVIDIA is trading at a lower multiple than Costco and Walmart. Yes, the most important company in the world is trading at a lower multiple than retailers. Why is this important? It's only a matter of time before NVIDIA moves higher. NVIDIA has the earnings and the future growth to more than justify its current valuation. And I think it's safe to say that NVIDIA's earnings growth in the coming years is going to be substantially greater than both Costco and Walmart's. And so on a forward multiple, NVIDIA is fairly cheap. Of course, I expect NVIDIA's data center business to continue growing strong as the world is extremely compute constrained in the face of extremely strong AI demand. And we're nowhere near any type of bubble bursting type of event, not even close. While there are similarities between this AI revolution and the dot-com era, there are also fundamental differences in multiple key areas, as I've discussed in previous videos. And while I expect NVIDIA's data center business to continue growing strong, I think most analysts are substantially underestimating the long-term growth in some of NVIDIA's other business segments, such as AI robotics. Physical AI is likely to be the biggest wave of AI yet. Physical AI agents completing physical tasks in the real world will fundamentally change society, and NVIDIA is establishing themselves as the underlying foundation supporting all of it. Over 2 million developers are already building on the NVIDIA robotics stack. NVIDIA sells the hardware for the data centers where the models are trained. They offer Omniverse where the models are taught and tested. And NVIDIA also sells the hardware that allows on-device real-time inference through NVIDIA AGX, allowing robots to have intelligent interactions with the real world even when they are not connected to a data center. Physical AI is a massive long-term growth opportunity for NVIDIA, and it does not get enough attention. In addition to physical AI, NVIDIA also has other large growth opportunities that they are really just starting to capitalize on in a meaningful way, including sovereign AI, enterprise AI, which Jensen believes is an opportunity worth hundreds of billions of dollars, many AI native startups, and quantum computing. Jensen told us earlier this year that NVIDIA is already working with just about everyone in the quantum industry on NVIDIA's CUDA-Q platform. Jensen also told us that the next generation supercomputers will have a QPU assigned with QPUs connected to GPUs. Just as NVIDIA used their GPUs to speed up CPUs, they're now going to do the same thing with QPUs. Again, this is another large long-term growth opportunity that does not get enough attention. Looking ahead, we have NVIDIA GTC in Washington, D.C. later this month, with a keynote from Jensen Huang scheduled for October 28th. Be on the lookout for any sovereign AI initiatives with the U.S. government or large-scale projects with U.S. companies. I say this because Jensen usually announces large-scale projects that are unique to the region where the GTC event is held, and this event is being held in Washington, D.C. Jensen told us on NVIDIA's earnings call that he is anxious to share more details about Rubin with us at GTC. As for production ramps, Blackwell Ultra is ramping very quickly right now, leading to revenue growth acceleration. Rubin is on track to launch in 2026. Then we're expecting Rubin CPX at the end of 2026. Later on, we're expecting the launch of Rubin Ultra in 2027 and Feynman after that in 2028. We have a clear data center product roadmap stretching into 2028, and Jensen believes there will be $3 to $4 trillion of global AI factory build-out between now and 2030. That means Jensen is expecting growing AI demand and an expanding total addressable market underpinning all of this. I don't think we are anywhere near any type of bubble bursting type of event. With all of this in mind, I seriously think that NVIDIA still has plenty of runway ahead of it, and I think this company will be worth substantially more in future years than it is today. At least that's my view of the situation. Remember to stay calm in this market. Remember to maintain a long-term perspective, and do not make any hasty or irrational decisions. With all of that being said, I hope you all have a great rest of the day, and I'm curious to hear your thoughts about NVIDIA in the comments below. Please leave a like on this video so more people will see it. And while you're down there, please consider subscribing. It's free, and you can always change your mind. Thanks for watching, and hopefully I'll see you in the next video.